Happy Monday, because aren't all Mondays just wonderful? I couldn't get out the sun this morning, sorry. Apologies, as it's burning into my skin, but it's just too good to miss, isn't it? How are you? Welcome to Monday. Welcome to Monday with me. My name is Abi, and I am a female health freedom coach, and I create radical strategies for high achieving women to incorporate and make time for their health, reducing their stress and creating greater energy. And I want to sit here with you today to talk about your menstrual cycle, the power found within your menstrual cycle, because we have Menstrual Cycle Health Day coming up on the 28th. So there's going to be a lot of conversation around this. And I want to talk to you about how incorporating your menstrual cycle into your self-care can be an absolute game changer. I love my period. I love my body. I love my period, but it wasn't always like that. I was late to the starting point. I started a lot later than the rest of my friends, and it was from that point onwards a pretty painful experience. I mean, all the way up until I had my first child at 31. But I remember going shopping. I must have been about 18. I was going out on a date, right? And I was going shopping for this day, and I collapsed in the shop, but I made sure that I bought the dress that I wanted to wear for this day. I mean, and I was taken off in an ambulance, stretchered out from a um, shopping centre. Just the shame that washed over me at that time. The shame. I don't feel that now, to be honest with you, when it comes to my period. But the shame that washed over me, and I was hooked up to all of these drips and whatnot. And that happened a few times. And so my period wasn't the greatest. I was always pretty grateful for it, but it wasn't the greatest of experiences. I remember being doubled up in my bed in absolute agony, praying to a hot water bottle, taking copious amounts of painkillers, and that went on for years because I didn't realize that there was another way. I thought that this is what happened when you had a period. And then, I mean, I've been in the industry for a very long time, within the well-being industry, but it wasn't until 2017 when I went away for a month and trained at a mixed movement camp, and our bodies were constantly moving. There was no stress of everyday life, from having to pay the bills to getting people ready for school or being a partner. It was just all about me. And this completely opened the door to my bleed, because whilst I was here, my period became 28 days. It was regular. I wasn't the emotional roller coaster that I normally was. They wasn't as heavy, and there was no clots. I mean, it was phenomenal. And so this saw me dive into wanting to find out more. And this is where I trained with the Red School. I read their amazing book, Wild Power. And then I found Stacey Sims. And then I trained with Phil Richards. And I filled my cup in regards to female feminine health from all aspects. I'm one of these people that loves the emotional side of things and working with the emotions to get greater clarity, but understanding the physiology side of the biochemical, that what's going on underneath the skin, how does the body actually function? I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I was blown away at what I didn't know about my body as a woman, and how that impacted my communication. You know what? We all know that you can cut the air with a knife. You've been in those situations, haven't you? Cut it with a knife when there's a lot of emotions running riot. And it's the same for when you are holding all those emotions and trying to push them down, especially when you are experiencing a symptom of female health. such as the painful periods, such as the PMS, which has an array of symptoms within it. I'd be really interested to hear how you feel about your period. Like, are you confused? I mean, when you hear people talk about it, it seems pretty bizarre, doesn't it? To get to know your bleed, to get to know your menstrual cycle. Because if you only know about the bleed part, what else is there? But there is so much more, I promise you. And it is so exciting because it enables you to build greater self care choices. You don't have to be fitting and squeezing everything in at one point. You know, the needs of your cycle changes throughout the month. And so instead of trying to ram everything into one day, one week, you can space it out. And this includes your work as well. It's phenomenal. Would it be helpful if I shared a little tip with you? Is it a tip? I'd actually say it's more of a choice. If you are new to the period in depth, or you know about your cycle, but you just can't quite make the time, I'd really suggest finding out how long your cycle is. Do you know how long your cycle is? And then from there, you can start to chart how you are feeling. Now, I love using a massive calendar. I've got one on my wall, which is made by the wonderful Gemma. I'll put her link in the comments. And I love to write down each day how I'm feeling. And you can begin to see where there's habits when you do this over a course of 3 months. Because what I found was when I reached day 21, when all the hormones start to kind of come into play, you've got progesterone, which can feel like, for me, that sedating feeling can feel like it's a massive fight and I'm doing something wrong. I found where my habits came in, especially with around drink, and I saw myself knocking back copious amounts of alcohol when I didn't really need to, because what happened was it just made me feel even worse the next day. So you can begin to understand your habits and where they show up. And if you don't like those habits, you can start making choices. Just a little tip from me. But if you've got any questions about your bleed, your menstrual cycle health, get in contact. I'd love to hear from you. In fact, let's have a chat. Let's have a chat. Because your period, your menstrual cycle is the greatest relationship you will ever have, because it is what every other relationship is founded from. And if you want support in getting more confidence from that, I'd really love to speak to you. All right, my darlings, have the most awesome day. In fact, have the most awesome week. Enjoy this sunshine. And remember your period. Remember your menstrual cycle. Tune in a minute a day. If you've got any questions, give me a shout. Nice one.